Hey guys, Razback 14, the Armory Guild. We're going to start part one of our SIG-229 disassembly and reassembly vid. It's going to do this in at least 2 parts, possibly more. It just depends on how long it takes. We're going to get fairly detailed in this. I'm going to try to explain it as best I can. I do not have the best camera in the world, so I'll try to get some close-ups. We got a camera coming, but this is what we got for right now. Some of the tools and stuff that you're going to need to do this with is you will need some punches. I have found that to take this particular firearm apart, all I need is a 3/32 inch punch. There are some pins that are bigger than this, but by the time that you get to them, you're going to be taking the pressure off of them. They're not hard to push out, so I don't use a bigger punch. You will need a number 20 torque screwdriver. A small flat tip screwdriver always helps to have some needle nose pliers. Pin set comes in handy, and you'll need a good hammer. Now if you use a metal hammer, you want to be very careful not to mar up the finish, not to let it slip off. When at all possible, use a rubberized hammer. This has a hard rubber on one side and plastic, some kind of a mylar. It won't take a huge pounding, but you can get on it pretty good. So if you use a metal hammer, just be cautious. And with that, we're going to get her going. It is unloaded. The magazine is out. There is nothing in the chamber, and we're going to get it going. First thing we're going to do is fill strip. Lock the slide to the rear. Take the takedown lever down. Release the slide, and then the frame comes off. We'll set the frame down aside here. Take the guide rod spring out. Barrel, and then the slide. There's your basic fill strip. Okay, that's naturally where we're going to start. We're going to set the frame aside for now. We'll get to that in a moment, and the barrel, and then the guide rod and guide rod spring. So we're going to start on the slide. I use a tape roll, a center tape. This comes in real handy because whenever you're pushing pins out, you don't want them to go into the table. You can push them out through here. And we're going to start with the firing pin, positioning pin, and this thing's held in with friction, and it's in there pretty tight, so you got to kind of pound it out. You're going to go from the right to the left on this as you're looking at the frame from the top. Right to left. It's right to left unless otherwise specified. I guess it's because it's a German gun. They read right to left, so right to left. Anyway, we're going to take this pin out. And it comes right out. So this is the firing pin, positioning pin. The next thing we're going to do, turn it over. And this right here is the firing pin safety lock, and you're going to depress it in order to pull the firing pin and the firing pin spring out. So depress it, it'll release the firing pin, keep it pressed down, and the firing pin and the firing pin spring will come straight out. And then you're going to take the lock itself, the firing pin safety lock, turn it upside down, and let gravity do it, and its spring will come right on your hand. The last thing to take out of here is the extractor, and this can be kind of tricky, guys. Take a flathead screwdriver, a small one. Okay, it's not very big. And I do this with 2 hands. It's a little bit difficult sometimes, but once you do it a few times, it gets easier and easier. So if you put the screwdriver right at the edge of the extractor, you'll see the extractor pin and the extractor itself, and you can push the screwdriver in, and it will go in between the spaces. If you turn it, the extractor will pop out, and then you let gravity do the rest. Out come the extractor pin and the extractor pin spring. And this is the slide taken completely apart. So what we have is the slide itself. We have the firing pin positioning pin, the firing pin safety lock, the firing pin safety lock spring, the firing pin and the firing pin spring, the extractor spring, the extractor pin, and the extractor itself. That is the disassembly of the slide for the 229. First thing that we're going to take apart on the frame itself is we're going to take the takedown lever out. You do want to make sure that the hammer is forward and the trigger is forward, so make sure it's decocked before you go any further. It is very important that it be in the decocked position both for disassembly and reassembly later on. So to remove the takedown lever, it's very, very simple. Push it up, and then on that back side of it, give a little bit of pressure, and then just start working the pin out. It will come loose. Alright? At this point, turn it back down toward the bottom, and again, just turn it and work itself loose. It comes right out in your hand. You're going to find out why you have to turn it in certain positions. There's certain places on here that are indented and grooved, and the takedown lever spring actually is what catches, and so you have to turn it so it depresses the spring and lets it out. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take out the lock, and so the locking insert, and basically it's very, very easy. It comes straight out. You just lift it up slightly forward and lift it straight out, and it'll come out in your hand. And here is the takedown lever spring that I was telling you about. It comes loose, so you have the insert lock, the takedown lever spring, and then we move on. The next thing that we're actually going to take out of it is we're going to take the grips off. So what I do is I try to put the screws back in the same holes. So what I like to do first is go ahead and loosen them. Take some of the pressure off. Take one screw out at a time and place it on the table like lower and upper. And I go left and right. And then the grip comes off, set it aside, flip it over, and do the same thing to the other side. It's very important to use the proper size tool. Several other videos, Pete for one has made mention, use the right size tool so you don't damage the head of your screws. It's very, very important to do so. And this is a number 20 torque screwdriver. Then this grip side comes off, and we set it aside. Alright, the next thing that we're going to take off of it is we're going to release this is called the trigger bar screen. Now this is very easy to take off. It's got a small latch here, or a small hook here, and there's an indentation in the trigger bar itself that it hooks to. Just take your finger, release it, and then you're going to want to pivot. Try to do it with this hand. You're going to want to pivot the bar spring toward you, and then it'll lift out of this hole back here. There's a small indentation that kind of goes in and turns. Okay. At this point, you're going to take out the trigger pivot pin. Either side, you can go left to right or right to left. Doesn't matter. It's loose generally, and it should push straight on out. And it'll come loose. Okay, then the slide catch is next. Our slide release lever is next. It lifts straight out, and then you have your trigger assembly. Push it back. Now there's a lip right here that this thing can get hung on, so you're going to want to push it to the side, push it up, and then it'll lift directly out of the frame. Just kind of work with it a little bit. There's a few little places on here that it can get caught on, but it's not a big deal. You can figure that out. It's real simple. Then the trigger just takes it right off the trigger bar itself. There's nothing that holds it on. Alright, then now we have the trigger assembly out. Hey guys, battery ran up. Sorry. Had to put a new battery in. Okay, we're going to continue with our disassembly. The next thing we're going to take out is the main spring and the hammer strut. We're going to start here with the main seat, or the spring seat. Use your flathead screwdriver. There's a slot back here. Be careful when you do this, gentlemen, because this will fly. So grab hold of it, and I'm going to bring it close to my body. Push up, out, and then just release the tension. Take the spring seat, set it aside, and the mainspring and the hammer strut, you can just lift it directly out. Alright? The next thing that we're going to release is we're going to take out the sear assembly. We're going to release tension on the sear spring, and I do that with a flathead screwdriver. The sear spring fits on this little, has tension on this little pin that holds the ejector in. All I do is release tension on it, is take a flathead screwdriver and move it over, and it will release tension. At that point, you can remove the sear pin, push it straight out, tension's off of it, and it'll come directly out. When you remove this pin, the sear and the sear spring are likely to fall out the bottom of the frame. That's fine. We're going to help it do so. Right there. You have your sear and your sear spring. Okay. The ejector went ahead and came out. Normally I'm going to put that back in, and we'll show you how you really are supposed to take that out. I think I'm going to put it back in. You're supposed to actually pivot this forward and then just lift it straight out. And the safety lever has already fell out as well. And again, it sits in on this side of the frame. It's held in with the sear pin as well, and you just lift the safety lever out. This is called the safety lever. The only thing left to take out now is the hammer pivot pin. Push it from either side. It's very loose. Pull it directly out. And then the hammer, push it forward just a little bit, and then lift it straight out. You need to push it forward because inside here you can't really see it, but inside here is a pin that's in between the sections part of this hammer, and the hammer stop spring, which you're going to see in just a moment, actually rides on top of this pin here. If it rides below it, you'll bend it and destroy it, but it must ride on top of it when you reassemble it. So that's why you have to go forward with it and then lift it out. The next thing, and I lied earlier, gentlemen, I said that this was the only punch that I used. Sorry guys, you do need a smaller punch. You need a smaller punch for the hammer stop pin. Alright, and this is a real small one. This is like a 1.5 millimeter. Put it on, and you can actually just push it straight out. No need to hammer. And push it all the way through the frame. Either way, it doesn't matter which side it comes out. And it just pulls right on out. The hammer stop comes out next, and this is a little bit difficult to get out. It's made out of polymer. You want to be careful so that you don't damage it. Alright? I use a screwdriver. Put it on top. There's a slot in here where the screwdriver head will fit, and push it directly to the rear. And you can just take it right out, and then you can take the spring out. The hammer stop spring will come directly out of it as well. Okay, now that's got this part of it. That's got this much of it apart. The last thing that we're going to take apart, that we're going to remove, is going to be the decocking lever. There's a spring here. I use a screwdriver again. Lift up slightly. It will release tension on it. Bring it around. It has a slot, and it just lays into it. At this particular point, the bearing is probably going to fall through when you lift the decocking lever up, which it did. And there it is, right there. And your frame is apart. That's your disassembly of your SIG 229. Next video, we're going to put it all back together in the next couple. Hang loose. We'll be right back.